Chinelo Nwosu's bare feet whispered against cold marble as she stood before floor-to-ceiling windows, Seoul's neon skyline bleeding colours into the night. Her reflection stared back, a ghost of the woman who'd boarded a plane 3 days ago, engagement ring still glinting on her finger like a beautiful lie. The rain started then, fat drops streaking down glass, and suddenly she was back in Enugu. 3 years ago. That storm. Daniel's umbrella appearing above her head, his smile warm enough to melt her caution. "You'll catch your death out here," he'd said, and she'd believed him to be her shelter. Now the marble bit into her soles, anchoring her to this new reality. The silk pajamas Jin-Woo had provided clung to her curves, midnight blue, obscenely expensive, the fabric whispering against her brown skin like a lover's touch. They were too luxurious for what she was. Merchandise. Property, a debt paid in flesh. The smell hit her in waves, expensive cologne layered over gun oil, a combination that made her stomach turn. Somewhere beyond the locked door, men barked commands in Korean, their voices harsh and guttural. She'd counted them. 8 guards on this floor alone. The cameras in the corners tracked her movements with red, unblinking eyes. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears as she approached the door again, knowing it was futile. She tried it 17 times in 3 days, always locked, always watched. How did love become a transaction? The words escaped her lips, bitter as ash. The mystery gnawed at her. Jin-Woo Park, the cruel Mafia uncle Daniel had mentioned only once, voice trembling with fear, hadn't touched her, hadn't spoken more than 5 words, hadn't even looked at her directly, except for that first moment when Daniel had pushed her forward like an offering. Other women would be in cells, Chinelo knew, used, broken, sold again. So why was she here? In his personal quarters? Untouched. The door's electronic lock beeped. Chinelo's breath caught as Jin-Woo entered, a tray balanced in scarred hands. He was tall, dangerous in the way apex predators are dangerous, all-controlled power and watchful eyes. A scar cut through his left eyebrow and his dark suit fit him like armor. Their eyes met. For the first time she didn't look away. Neither did he. "Eat," he said, his voice deep and accented. "You'll need your strength for what's coming." Chinelo's throat tightened, but she forced the words out. "Are you going to kill me?" Jin-Woo set the tray down, his gaze never leaving hers. In the silence, she saw something flicker behind those cold eyes, something that looked almost like respect. "That depends on you." Before we dive into what happens next, hit that like button and subscribe. You won't believe the twist coming in this story. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and get ready, because what Jin-Woo does in the next part will shock you. The rice had gone cold on the tray, but Chinelo couldn't bring herself to eat, her stomach twisted with memories that tasted like betrayal. 6 months ago, she'd buried her mother in red Enugu clay. Mama had been her anchor, her reason for working 2 jobs until her fingers bled from needle pricks and her voice went hoarse from teaching children their ABCs. The house had felt too empty after the funeral, echoing with all the dreams her mother had held for her. A husband, children, stability, love. Then Daniel had appeared like an answered prayer. She could still remember that afternoon at the cafe, delivering Mr. Okonkwo's custom suit. The fabric had been imported from Italy, midnight black with subtle pinstripes. She'd been proud of that piece. Daniel had been sitting by the window, sunlight catching the Korean angles of his face, and when she'd named her price, he'd smiled and paid triple without hesitation. "Beautiful work deserves beautiful compensation," he'd said. That kindness had felt like rescue. Like finally, after 24 years of being too much, too dark-skinned for the colorism that plagued her community, too curvy for the straight-bodied beauty standards, too poor for the life she dreamed of, someone saw her worth. She'd fallen so easily. Late-night food deliveries when she worked past midnight, his patience when she was too exhausted to be charming, the way he'd held her when she cried about her mother, his heartbeat steady against her ear. 3 years of building a dream, a family, an end to loneliness. The engagement had been everything she'd imagined. Daniel on one knee, hands trembling, eyes bright with what she'd believed was love. But then the trip. His nervousness in the weeks before, his sudden reluctance to discuss his uncle, changing the subject whenever she asked about his Korean family. She should have known. The door opened again, and this time it wasn't Jin-Woo, but a young Korean woman carrying fresh linens. Petite, with tired eyes that had seen too much, she moved with the efficiency of someone who'd learned to be invisible. "Hana," the woman whispered, glancing at the cameras before tucking an extra blanket at the foot of Chinelo's bed. "If you need anything, just ask." "Why are you being kind to me?" Chinelo's voice cracked. Hana's fingers trembled as she straightened. "Because boss never brings women here. You're different. And—" She hesitated, then leaned closer. "Annyeonghaseyo. It means hello. Learn Korean. You'll need it." Before Chinelo could respond, Hana slipped out, different. The word haunted her. Through the window, she could see another wing of the compound. Men in dark suits patrolled. One she'd seen more than others, sharp-featured, always armed, watching her quarters with undisguised suspicion. Min-jae, she'd heard Jin-Woo call him. The second-in-command who spoke in clipped sentences and never smiled, who looked at her like she was a bomb waiting to detonate. He wasn't wrong. Chinelo twisted the engagement ring on her finger. Once it had symbolized forever. Now it was a shackle, a reminder of Daniel's face when he pushed her toward his uncle, blank, emotionless, already gone. Somewhere in Nigeria, people would be wondering where she'd disappeared to. Her cousin Adana, her students, the bride whose wedding dress she'd promised to finish. She might never go home. The thought should have broken her, should have sent her to her knees begging for mercy. Instead, something cold and sharp crystallized in her chest. Daniel had taught her an invaluable lesson. Love could be weaponized. Trust could be sold. And she, Chinelo Nwosu, daughter of Grace Nwosu, survivor of loss and loneliness, refused to be anyone's victim. She wouldn't beg. She wouldn't break. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction. Chinelo slid the engagement ring off her finger and placed it on the nightstand. The metal clinked against marble, final as a gavel. Whatever came next, she would face it standing. On the fourth morning, Chinelo stopped waiting for answers. She'd spent 3 nights cataloguing every camera angle, every guard rotation, every locked door. She knew the penthouse better than Jin-Woo probably realized. And she knew one thing with certainty. She deserved the truth. When Jin-Woo entered his study, she was already there, standing by his desk with her arms crossed. His eyes widened fractionally, the first genuine surprise she'd seen on his face. "How did you—" "The truth," she interrupted, her voice steady despite the war drums in her chest. "Now." Jin-Woo closed the door with deliberate calm, then moved to his desk. He didn't sit. Instead, he regarded her with something that might have been respect. "Your fiancé owed me $5 million. You were the payment." The words hit like a physical blow. Chinelo's knees buckled, and she gripped the edge of his desk, her chest constricted, squeezing the air from her lungs. The room blurred at the edges, Jin-Woo's face swimming in and out of focus. $5 million. She was worth $5 million at another man's debt. "You're a monster," she whispered. "Yes." He didn't flinch, didn't offer empty denials. "I am." Jin-Woo pulled a tablet from his desk drawer, tapped the screen, and turned it toward her. "But I'm not the only one." Chinelo's trembling hands took the device. Financial records filled the screen. Gambling debts stretching back 2 years, failed business ventures, loans from dangerous people. Daniel's signature appeared again and again, sometimes shaky, sometimes forged entirely. She swiped to the next document, then the next. Each one a nail in the coffin of her naive heart. "There's more," Jin-Woo said quietly. He pressed play on a video file. Daniel's face filled the screen, younger, laughing in what looked like a private club. Jin-Woo sat across from him, expressionless. The audio crackled to life. "She doesn't know anything," Daniel was saying, whiskey loose in his voice. "Chinelo's sweet, trusting. She'll get on the plane thinking it's our honeymoon trip." He laughed, the sound making Chinelo's stomach turn. "Hell, if you don't want her, I know guys who'd pay top dollar. Maybe I could get a commission." Chinelo dropped the tablet. The device clattered against marble, Daniel's laughter still echoing from the speakers, until Jin-Woo silenced it with his foot. "He even asked for a commission if I sold you to someone else," Jin-Woo said, his voice colder than she'd ever heard it. The room tilted. Chinelo pressed her palms against her eyes, willing herself not to shatter. Every late-night conversation, every promise, every touch, all of it contaminated by the truth. Daniel had never loved her. He'd groomed her, prepared her for slaughter. She could break now, could fall to her knees and beg Jin-Woo to send her home, to let her crawl back to Nigeria and pretend none of this happened. But Grace Nwosu's daughter didn't crawl. Chinelo lifted her head, met Jin-Woo's gaze with burning eyes. If I'm property now, what's my value? What do I do to earn my freedom? Jin-Woo's mask cracked. For a moment he simply stared at her, something like wonder flickering across his features. What? You heard me. She stepped closer, her fear transforming into fuel. I'm asking what I'm worth to you and what I need to do to buy myself back. No one has ever, he stopped, recalibrated. You should be begging to go home. Should I? Chinelo's laugh was sharp. And what's waiting for me there? Pity? Shame? Everyone knowing I was fool enough to trust a man who sold me? She shook her head. No, I'd rather face monsters who are honest about what they are. Jin-Woo studied her for a long moment. Then he moved to the window, hands clasped behind his back. The Mafia Council meets in 3 days. They'll want to see you, assess you, bid on you. Horror crawled up Chinelo's spine, cold and slithering. Or, Jin-Woo continued, turning to face her, you stay here, with me, under my protection. But there are rules. You don't leave this wing without my permission. You don't speak to anyone I haven't approved. You trust no one. Why would you protect me? His jaw tightened. Because Daniel made a mistake thinking you were worthless. I don't make the same mistakes. Before Chinelo could respond, the door burst open. Min-jae stood there, weapon drawn, eyes wild. So we have a situation. Daniel Park is here. He's demanding to see her. Rage ignited in Chinelo's chest. White-hot and consuming. Let me see him. Let me. No. Jin-Woo's voice cracked like a whip. He crossed the room in 3 strides, positioning himself between her and the door. He doesn't get to see you. Not yet. Not until I'm done with him. His hand moved unconsciously to the gun at his hip, and his jaw clenched with barely contained fury. Min-jae's eyes widened fractionally, darting between his boss and Chinelo understood. Jin-Woo wasn't protecting an asset. He was angry, genuinely, viciously angry, on her behalf. What are you going to do to him? She whispered. Jin-Woo's smile was a dangerous thing. That depends on you. The days bled into each other, marked by rituals Chinelo never expected. Jin-Woo kept her confined to his wing, but confinement with him felt different than the isolation she'd first endured. They shared meals in tense silence. He sat across from her at a table too large for 2, his eyes occasionally lifting from documents to watch her eat. On the 3rd day, she noticed the kitchen had stopped serving meat. You remembered, she said, gesturing to the vegetable japchae. I pay attention. His tone was neutral, but something flickered in his expression. He taught her Korean in the evenings, phrases for safety, he claimed. Dowa Juseo means help me. Gemundaseo means stop. His voice softened when he corrected her pronunciation, patient in a way that contradicted everything she knew about him. She noticed other kindnesses too. The temperature in her room stayed warm despite the autumn chill. Male guards never patrolled near her quarters anymore. Only Hana and 2 female security personnel Jin-Woo trusted. But kindness didn't erase reality. One afternoon, Chinelo heard shouting from the corridor. Curiosity pulled her to the door, and she cracked it open just enough to see. Jin-Woo had a man pinned against the wall, forearm crushing his throat. The man's face was purple, eyes bulging. You looked at her, Jin-Woo snarled in Korean. You think I didn't see? Boss, I didn't mean. The crack of bone made Chinelo flinch. The man crumpled, and Jin-Woo wiped his hands on a handkerchief as casually as if he'd swatted a fly. When he turned, he saw her watching. Their eyes locked. Chinelo's horror must have shown on her face because Jin-Woo's expression shuttered completely. He straightened his suit jacket and walked toward her, but she stepped back instinctively. He stopped. Don't mistake protection for goodness, Chinelo. I am exactly what you called me, a monster. The door closed between them, and Chinelo pressed her back against it, heart racing. She wanted to hate him, needed to hate him, but she couldn't ignore the fact that the man had leered at her yesterday, making her skin crawl. Jin-Woo had noticed, and he'd delivered consequences. That night, she couldn't sleep. The balcony called to her, and she slipped outside, letting Seoul's night air wash over her skin. The city sprawled below, indifferent to her crisis. Insomnia? She spun. Jin-Woo stood in the doorway holding 2 cups of tea. He'd removed his suit jacket and his shirt sleeves were rolled up, revealing the scars that mapped his forearms. Chamomile, he offered, extending a cup. Hana says it helps. They stood in silence, sipping tea under a sky too bright with city lights for stars. Chinelo's fingers traced the rim of her cup, gathering courage. The scars on your arms? How did you get them? Jin-Woo's jaw tightened. For a moment she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, my father built this empire on blood. When I was 16, his enemies tried to take it by taking me. They wanted to send him a message. He touched a particularly nasty scar near his wrist. I sent one back. And your father? Dead. Heart attack, though some say it was poison. I inherited the throne and the enemies. He looked at her. What about you? What did you inherit? Chinelo's throat tightened. Mama's sewing machine. Her belief that hard work and kindness would be enough. She laughed bitterly. I sewed wedding dresses for other women while dreaming of my own. Ironic, isn't it? Jin-Woo's lips curved, not quite a smile, but close. Life enjoys irony. The moment stretched, fragile and unexpected. It shattered the next morning when Min-jae cornered Jin-Woo in the hallway. Chinelo was returning from Hana's quarters when she heard their heated whispers. The council is questioning your judgment, sir. They think you're going soft. Min-jae's frustration was palpable. They want her sold or used as leverage against the Jade Serpent clan. Tell them she's off limits. Jin-Woo's voice was steel. That's an order. They won't listen forever. You know the rules. Personal attachments are weaknesses. Chinelo's chest constricted. She was a weakness. A liability that could cost Jin-Woo everything. That afternoon, Hana slipped into her room with nervous eyes. She pressed a mobile phone into Chinelo's hands. If you need to escape, call this number, Hana whispered. Chinelo stared at the device. Why are you helping me? Because you deserve a choice. But Hana's hands trembled and she wouldn't meet Chinelo's eyes. Don't tell anyone I gave you this. After Hana left, Chinelo turned the phone over in her hands. Was this genuine help? A test? Was Jin-Woo behind it? She hid it anyway. Days later, Hana began teaching her self-defense in a private gym. Chinelo's body ached from the training, but she refused to be helpless. She learned to break holds, to strike vulnerable points, to use momentum against larger opponents. Jin-Woo watched via security cameras, though he thought she didn't know. One evening, Chinelo twisted wrong during a throw. Pain lanced through her wrist, sharp and immediate. She hissed, cradling the injury. Jin-Woo appeared within minutes, medical kit in hand. His large hands were impossibly gentle as he examined her wrist, fingers probing for breaks. Just a sprain, he murmured, wrapping it with practiced efficiency. His thumb brushed her pulse point. Their eyes met and neither looked away. The air thickened, charged with something dangerous and inevitable. This can't happen, Jin-Woo said. But he didn't move. Neither did Chinelo. He pulled away first, standing abruptly. You should rest. Alone in her room, Chinelo pressed her bandaged wrist to her chest, confused by the disappointment flooding her veins. She was falling for her captor, and she had no idea how to stop. Chinelo waited until 2 a.m., when even the guard's footsteps grew lazy with fatigue. Jin-Woo had left for a meeting an hour ago. She'd watched his motorcade disappear into Seoul's arterial streets. The office door's electronic lock had a pattern she'd memorized from watching Hana. 6 digits, always ending with the same 2 numbers. Her third attempt granted access. The office smelled like him. Sandalwood and danger. Chinelo moved quickly, rifling through filing cabinets with practiced efficiency. She wasn't looking for escape routes anymore. She needed to understand why Jin-Woo kept her alive, what leverage she actually held. The manila folder was labelled simply, Daniel Park, Asset Acquisition. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside were schematics of Jin-Woo's compound, guard rotations, security vulnerabilities. But worse, far worse, were the communications between Daniel and someone named Serpent Leader. The messages detailed a plan that made her blood freeze. Phase 1. Deliver the girl. She'll occupy Jin-Woo's attention. Phase 2. Infiltrate using her presence as distraction. Phase 3. Eliminate Jin-Woo Park. Assume control of operations. Chinelo's vision swam. She wasn't just payment, she was a weapon. A Trojan horse designed to destroy the man who'd shown her more genuine protection than her own fiancé ever had. Find what you were looking for? She spun. Jin-Woo stood in the doorway, suit jacket gone, shirt sleeves rolled up. His expression was unreadable. You knew. Her voice cracked. From the beginning, you knew I was bait. And you still kept me here. Why? Jin-Woo closed the door, moved toward her with predatory grace. Because the moment I saw you, really saw you, not what Daniel tried to reduce you to, I knew he was a fool, and I don't let fools win. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. He stopped inches from her, close enough that she could see the storm in his eyes. My sister Ji-yeon was 19 when her boyfriend sold her to pay gambling debts. By the time I found her, she'd been passed through 3 different organizations. She survived 2 weeks before he swallowed hard, before she took the choice away from all of them. Chinelo's anger melted into something rawer. Jin-Woo? When Daniel pushed you toward me, you looked at him with such betrayal, such broken hope. His voice dropped to a whisper. You looked exactly like Ji-yeon did in the security footage I finally obtained. He turned away. I couldn't let history repeat itself. Understanding crashed over her. This wasn't about attraction or strategy. It was about redemption for a girl he couldn't save. My father left before I was born, Chinelo said quietly. Walked out the day Mama told him she was pregnant. She spent her whole life teaching me I was enough, that I was worthy of staying. But I never believed her. Not really. Tears burned her eyes. Daniel was the first man who promised to stay. I thought I finally mattered to someone. Jin-Woo turned back, his expression fierce. You matter to me, more than you should, more than is safe for either of us. The space between them evaporated. His hands cupped her face with devastating gentleness. I will destroy Daniel for what he did to you, but I need your permission. I need to know you want this, want vengeance, want justice, want you, Chinelo breathed. I want you. Their first kiss was desperate, dangerous, inevitable. His mouth claimed hers with barely restrained hunger, and she responded with equal fervor, fingers tangling in his hair. Every wall they'd built crumbled under the weight of want and understanding, and something that felt terrifyingly like love. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Chinelo's voice was steel. Destroy him, but I want to watch. I want him to see what he lost, what he never deserved. Jin-Woo's smile was savage. As you wish. The door burst open. Min-jae stood there, blood on his shirt, phone in his trembling hand. Sir, we have a problem. Daniel's made his move. He kidnapped Song Min-ho and sent this. He played a video. The informant who'd provided intel on the Jade Serpent clan hung from chains, beaten and bloody. Daniel's voice narrated, Trade the girl for his life. You have 12 hours. Come to the old factory in Incheon, alone. Jin-Woo's fury was volcanic, every muscle in his body coiling for violence. Use me, Chinelo said immediately. Set a trap. End this. No, Jin-Woo's response was immediate, absolute. I won't risk you. I'm not asking for permission. She grabbed his arm, forcing him to look at her. I'm taking back my life. That means facing him. That means finishing this. Before Jin-Woo could respond, Hana stumbled into the office, mascara streaking her face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Hana? Chinelo's stomach dropped. Daniel has my brother. He threatened to kill him if I didn't help. Hana's words tumbled out in a rush. The phone I gave you, it had tracking software. He's been monitoring everything, your movements, your routines when Jin-Woo leaves the compound. The betrayal stung, but Chinelo saw the terror in Hana's eyes. It's okay. We'll get your brother back. There's more, Min-jae said grimly. Our surveillance picked up unusual activity. Daniel's planning to raid the compound tonight. Jin-Woo checked his watch. How long? 3 hours, maybe less. The clock was ticking, and Chinelo realized with crystal clarity this ended tonight, one way or another. You're going to the safe house now. Jin-Woo's voice left no room for argument as he barked orders to his men, but Chinelo had learned to speak his language, the language of immovable wills. I'm staying. Like hell you are. He grabbed her arm. Not roughly, but firmly. Chinelo, if something happens to you because of me, if you die protecting me, I'll never forgive you. She wrenched free, eyes blazing. You said I mattered. Prove it. Trust me to fight beside you. His jaw clenched, muscles jumping. For a moment she thought she'd won. Then he nodded to Min-jae. Get her out of here. That's an order. Yes, sir. Min-jae's hand on her elbow was apologetic but unyielding. Chinelo fought, screamed Jin-Woo's name, but he'd already turned away, issuing rapid-fire commands in Korean. The last thing she saw before the elevator doors closed was his rigid spine, the set of his shoulders that said he was preparing for war. The SUV tore through Seoul's streets, Min-jae silent in the driver's seat, two guards flanking Chinelo in the back. Her wrists bore zip-tie restraints, a precaution, Min-jae had said, to keep her from doing something stupid. "He loves you, you know," Min-jae said quietly. "I've served him for 8 years. Never seen him like this." "Then why?" The windshield exploded. Min-jae jerked the wheel as bullets shredded metal and glass. The SUV fishtailed, slammed into a barrier, and Chinelo's head cracked against the window. Through blurred vision, she saw Min-jae return fire, saw one guard slump forward with blood blooming across his chest. "Get down!" Min-jae roared, but there were too many. Black vans boxed them in, and men in tactical gear swarmed the vehicle. Min-jae took a bullet to the shoulder, protecting her, his body jerking with impact before he collapsed against the steering wheel. Hands dragged Chinelo from the wreckage. She kicked, bit, fought with everything Hana had taught her, but a needle pierced her neck, and the world went soft and distant. When clarity returned, she was in hell. The warehouse stank of rust and decay. Industrial chains hung from exposed beams, and broken machinery created shadows that seemed to breathe. Chinelo's hands were bound behind her, shoulders screaming from the awkward angle. And there, standing in a pool of fluorescent light, was Daniel. He looked nothing like the man she'd loved. His eyes were wild, pupils dilated, and his hands shook as he paced. Cocaine residue dusted his nostrils. This was desperation incarnate. "Chinelo!" Her name on his lips made her skin crawl. "You've caused me so much trouble." "Good," she spat. His laugh was unhinged. "You were supposed to make me rich, get me close to Jin-Woo, distract him while we took everything. Instead, you made him weak, sentimental." He grabbed her face roughly. "Do you know what you're worth now?" "Millions. I'm going to auction you off, live stream it to every dark web bidder. Jin-Woo will watch you get sold piece by piece, and his empire will crumble knowing he failed another woman he cared about." The old Chinelo, the one who'd boarded a plane believing in love, might have broken, but that woman had died somewhere between Seoul and Betrayal. "Did you really think you deserved love?" Daniel's cruelty sharpened. "Look at you. You're nothing. You were always nothing. A poor seamstress who believed in fairy tales." The words found their targets, reopening wounds she'd carried since childhood. Unworthiness, abandonment, the bone-deep fear that she was fundamentally unlovable. But then she remembered. Jin-Woo's hands, scarred and gentle, wrapping her injured wrist, his voice saying, "You matter to me," the way he'd looked at her before that kiss, like she was something precious he'd spent his whole life searching for. Chinelo lifted her head. "I am not nothing, and you will regret this." Daniel's hand connected with her cheek, snapping her head sideways. Blood filled her mouth, but she smiled through it. "Is that all you have?" Back at the compound, Jin-Woo stood over the mole's body, gun still smoking. The man had died quickly, too quickly, but there was no time for proper retribution. "Hana, where is he keeping her?" Jin-Woo's voice was ice over magma. Hana pulled up coordinates. "The old shipyard warehouse in Incheon. The same place where—" She stopped, eyes widening, where Jiyeon died. Jin-Woo's hands didn't shake as he reloaded. He chose it deliberately. Min-jae stumbled in, blood-soaked but alive, supported by 2 medics. "Sir, I failed. They took her. You're alive. That's what matters." Jin-Woo's phone buzzed, a video file from an unknown number. He pressed play and watched his world fracture. Chinelo, bound and defiant, blood on her lips, Daniel's face filling the frame. "Come alone, unarmed, or I kill her and upload everything. You have 1 hour. Your empire falls either way, uncle." "It's suicide," Min-jae rasped. "He'll kill you both." Jin-Woo looked at the screen, at Chinelo's eyes, terrified but unbroken. He'd failed Ji-yeon, let her suffer because he'd been too slow, too consumed by business to notice the warning signs. He wouldn't fail again. "Then I die," Jin-Woo said, chambering around. "But she lives." He walked toward certain death, and for the first time in years, Park Jin-Woo felt something like peace. Chinelo's fingers worked methodically in the darkness, muscle memory guiding her. Years of threading needles in dim light, of coaxing stubborn fabric into submission. Those skills hadn't abandoned her. The hem of her shirt had a loose thread, and she pulled it carefully, unravelling several feet of strong cotton fibre. The zip ties binding her wrists weren't sophisticated. She'd watched enough YouTube videos while hemming pants late at night to know the weakness. The locking mechanism could be manipulated with the right tool and pressure. 15 minutes later, her hands were free. But Chinelo didn't run. Running was what the old her would have done. The woman who believed rescue came from outside, from men, from anyone but herself. That woman had died the moment Daniel pushed her toward his uncle like merchandise. This woman planned. She surveyed her prison with new eyes. Broken machinery provided cover. A length of pipe lay near an old conveyor belt, serviceable as a weapon. Daniel's guards were stationed at the exits, but they were sloppy, confident in the restraints that no longer held her. Hana's training echoed in her mind. Use your opponent's assumptions against them. They expect fear. Give them confidence instead. I'm not the same woman who boarded that plane, Chinelo whispered to herself, gripping the pipe. I'm not helpless anymore. She melted into the shadows, waiting. At the compound, Hana burst into the armory where Jin-Woo was loading weapons with mechanical precision. Sir, wait! He didn't look up. If you're here to talk me out of this. Chinelo planted a tracker. Hana thrust her tablet forward. In the lining of her jacket, she told me before Min-jae took her, said if anything happened to check this frequency. Jin-Woo's hands stilled. On the screen, a blinking red dot pulsed at the Incheon shipyard. But there was more. Movement patterns. A map she'd somehow activated remotely. She knew, he breathed. She anticipated betrayal. A smile, rare and genuine, broke across his face. Chinelo wasn't waiting to be saved. She was giving him the tools to fight smart instead of desperate. She's remarkable, Hana said softly. She's mine. Jin-Woo's voice carried absolute certainty. He turned to his assembled men. New plan? We don't surrender. We execute a tactical rescue. Min-jae, despite your injury, I need your strategic mind. Everyone else, positions here, here and here. His finger traced points on the map. Daniel expects me broken and alone. Let's show him what a mistake that is. Jin-Woo walked into the warehouse exactly on time, hands visible and empty. The building groaned around him, metal settling like old bones. Daniel emerged from behind a shipping container, gun trained on Jin-Woo's chest. Uncle. Daniel's smile was cocaine-bright and manic. So predictable. Love makes men stupid. You want money? Jin-Woo's voice was calm, measured. Power? I can give you territory. Operations in 3 countries. Name your price. My price? Daniel laughed, the sound echoing off concrete. My price was her, and you stole it. So now I'll take everything, starting with watching you beg. I don't beg. You will. What Daniel didn't see, what his arrogance blinded him to, was Chinelo moving through the shadows behind him. She disarmed one guard with the pipe, taken his weapon, and now stood 20 feet away with a gun in her steady hands. Jin-Woo saw her, though. Their eyes met across the warehouse, and in that single glance, everything communicated. Trust, partnership, love that had been forged in fire and betrayal, and choosing each other anyway. Chinelo stepped into the light. Looking for me, Daniel? He spun, shock blanking his features. The gun in her hands didn't waver. How did you? He looked between her and Jin-Woo, realization dawning. You're working together. We're standing together, Chinelo corrected. There's a difference. Daniel's face twisted with rage. He raised his radio. Plan B now! The warehouse exploded with movement. Men poured in from hidden positions, Jade Serpent clan members heavily armed and coordinated. But Jin-Woo had anticipated this. His own forces emerged like ghosts, tactical and precise. Gunfire erupted. Jin-Woo moved toward Chinelo with fluid grace, his body a shield. Stay behind me. She grabbed his arm, stopping him. No, we fight together or not at all. His eyes searched hers, saw the steel there, the transformation from victim to warrior. Pride and love warred in his expression before he nodded once, sharp and decisive. Together then! They moved as one through the chaos, back to back, his experience and her determination creating a partnership more powerful than either alone. When a Serpent member aimed for Jin-Woo's blind spot, Chinelo didn't hesitate. Her shot was clean, dropping him before he could fire. Jin-Woo glanced back, saw what she'd done, and something in his expression shifted. This wasn't protection anymore. This was equality. Daniel watched his plan crumble. Watched the woman he'd sold fight beside the man he'd tried to destroy, and understood with crystalline clarity he'd lost everything the moment he underestimated her worth. Fall back! He screamed to his men. Fall back! But there was nowhere left to run. The battle's tide turned quickly. Jin-Woo's men were disciplined, loyal, fighting for a leader who'd earned their respect. Daniel's hired guns were mercenaries who scattered when the odds shifted, self-preservation trumping paychecks. Within minutes, the warehouse fell silent except for groans of the wounded and the click of weapons being secured. Daniel stood trapped, backed against a concrete pillar, wild-eyed and desperate. Then he moved, lightning quick, grabbing Hana, who'd been tending to an injured guard, his gun pressed against her temple. "Don't!" Hana's scream cut through the air. "Let her go, Daniel." Chinelo stepped forward, lowering her weapon. "This is between us. It was always between us." "You're right." Daniel's laugh was broken glass. "I loved you, Chinelo. I did. But you were never going to be enough to save me from my debts, my failures, my—" "You never loved me." Chinelo's voice rang with truth. You loved what you thought I could give you, a way out, a transaction, a tool. You never saw me as a person, just a means to an end." Jin-Woo raised his gun, but Chinelo touched his arm. "Don't. He's not worth your soul." "Chinelo, let the law handle him." Min-jae appeared then, tablet in hand despite the blood seeping through his shoulder bandage. "Sir, you need to see this." He played an audio file. Daniel's voice, recorded 3 weeks ago. "After the sale goes through, eliminate her. Can't have loose ends testifying about my involvement. Make it look like the buyers did it." Chinelo's blood turned to ice. Daniel had never intended for her to survive. The betrayal went deeper than selling her. He'd planned her murder. "You!" Her voice broke. "You were going to kill me?" Daniel's mask slipped, revealing something pathetic underneath. "Business, baby, nothing personal." Before Jin-Woo could move, the Jade Serpent lieutenant stepped forward, weapon trained on Daniel. "We don't work with men who play both sides, who plan to betray everyone." He looked at Jin-Woo. "Consider this a peace offering. Daniel Park is yours." The gun pulled away from Hana's head as serpent soldiers secured Daniel. He struggled, screaming promises and threats, but the words were empty. Jin-Woo could have killed him, should have, by all the rules of his world. But he looked at Chinelo, at the woman who'd chosen to see humanity in him despite everything, and chose differently. Take him to the authorities. International trafficking, attempted murder, conspiracy. Jin-Woo's voice was granite. Let him rot in prison. Let him lose everything he valued. Freedom, status, dignity. Let him live with what he's done. Chinelo approached Daniel one final time. She twisted the engagement from her finger, the symbol of pretty lies and broken promises, and dropped it at his feet. It bounced once, twice, then rolled into a puddle of oil and water. "I'm free of you," she said quietly. "Completely." Daniel was dragged away, screaming her name, begging for mercy he'd never shown. The sound faded into the Seoul night. Jin-Woo pulled Chinelo into his arms, his hands shaking with the aftermath of fear and violence. "You saved my life tonight. You saved mine first." Hana approached, tears streaming. "My brother? Safe," Min-jae confirmed. "We extracted him an hour ago." Back at the compound, the council had watched everything via security feeds Jin-Woo had strategically activated. They'd seen Chinelo's intelligence, her courage, her loyalty under fire. They'd witnessed her save their leader's life without hesitation. The senior councillor spoke via video call. "Park Jin-Woo, you claimed this woman made you weak. We see now she makes you stronger, strategic, human enough to inspire loyalty beyond fear." Jin-Woo's arm tightened around Chinelo. "She stays with me, as my equal. Anyone who challenges this challenges me directly." Silence. Then, one by one, the council members bowed their heads in acceptance. Chinelo had walked into this world as property. She was leaving it as a partner to one of the most powerful men in Seoul's underworld, but more importantly, as herself, fully, finally, free. 3 months later, Seoul had transformed from a prison into a home. Chinelo stood in the conference room of Park Enterprises presenting quarterly reports in fluent Korean. The board members, men who'd once seen her as Jin-Woo's weakness, now listened with respect as she outlined the transition strategy, moving 40% of operations into legitimate real estate development and technology investments. "Community centres in Gangnam and Itaewon," she explained, clicking to the next slide. "Education programs for at-risk youth. We're not just building buildings, we're building futures." Jin-Woo watched from the head of the table, pride evident in every line of his face. She'd transformed more than his empire. She'd transformed him. After the meeting, he found her on their private rooftop, Seoul's night skyline spreading like scattered diamonds below. The city pulsed with life, and somewhere in Nigeria, construction had begun on the Grace Nwosu Memorial School, funded entirely by Jin-Woo, built in honor of the woman who'd raised a daughter brave enough to survive anything. Chinelo, his voice was soft. She turned and he dropped to one knee. The ring he presented wasn't ostentatious, a simple band with a single Nigerian sapphire, ethically sourced. Not as payment, not as possession, as partnership, as equals. Tears blurred her vision, but these were joyful. Yes, but only because I choose you, not because I need you. Their kiss tasted like freedom, genuine, earned through fire and truth and choosing each other every single day. The wedding came 2 weeks later. Hana stood as maid of honor, her brother healthy and safe beside her. She'd been promoted to head of security operations, her past forgiven, her future bright. Min-jae, recovered and gruffly affectionate, walked Chinelo down the aisle since her father never had. "You've earned my respect," he told her. Not many do. Chinelo's cousin Adana flew in from Nigeria, along with her former students who couldn't believe their teacher had become a Seoul power player. Jin-Woo had paid for everything, wanting her surrounded by the people who'd loved her first. Daniel's trial had made international headlines. Chinelo's testimony, calm, factual, devastating, had sealed his fate. 20 years for human trafficking, conspiracy, and attempted murder. She'd faced him in that courtroom and felt nothing. Not hatred, not pain, just closure. 6 months after the wedding, Chinelo cut the ribbon on Aso Seoul Fashion House, her design studio merging vibrant Nigerian prints with sleek Korean tailoring. Jin-Woo stood beside her, his investment in her dream absolute and unconditional. That night, they returned to a nightclub in Gangnam, the same kind of venue where Jin-Woo had first acquired her. But now, as they danced under strobing lights, it was their sanctuary, their joy. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked against his chest. "Choosing me over everything you knew?" Jin-Woo pulled back, cupped her face. "You taught me that real power isn't control. It's trust. It's partnership. It's loving someone enough to let them be free." Chinelo never imagined that the worst betrayal of her life would lead her to the greatest love she'd ever know. In Jin-Woo's arms, she wasn't the woman who was sold. She was the woman who bought her freedom with courage, reclaimed her value with strength, and chose love with open eyes. And Jin-Woo, the man who once knew only control, learned that the greatest power is surrender, to trust, to love, to hope. Together they built an empire not of fear, but of respect. Not of possession, but of partnership. Their story wasn't about being rescued, it was about two broken people choosing to heal together, proving that sometimes the darkest moments can lead to the brightest futures. If this story touched your heart, hit that subscribe button and share it with someone who needs to hear this message today. Drop a comment telling me what lesson hit you the hardest. And remember, you are worthy of real love, always.